afternoon, everybody. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Excellent. My name is Ken Lamb, Director of Alumni Relations, and wanted to thank all of you for coming out today and joining us here at a very special afternoon. And it's one of the best things I love about my job. It's the opportunity to recognize and talk about and share the stories of our alumni and let others know about what amazing things they're doing, not just as students at Wagner, but after they've graduated from Wagner. And today is just like any other day where we have all these great alumni who come back to Wagner, who come back and share their experiences to all of you, students, who are hoping to one day aspire to be coming back to campus to be one of these successful alumni, accomplished alumni. And we've got a lot of them with us here in the room today. We've got Jeff Whitty, class of 1988, a member of the Alumni Association Board. Thanks for coming up, Jeff. We have Michael Messino, class of 73, also on the Alumni Board. Michael. We have Kara Cafasso, class of 2007. And for all of you who didn't know, Kara's husband, Frank Cafasso, who's our CIO, our IT guru, is also here with us today. Hey, Frank. And we have Aletta Diamond, class of 19... Aletta is one of our board members of the Wagner College Board of Trustees, and she's also a representative on the Alumni Association. And Aletta is probably one of our biggest Wagner supporters. You can find her at every basketball game, every theater program, basically anything that's happening at Wagner, she's at. And she's all of your biggest fans. Those of you here from the theater program or from arts admin or from other industry, from other fields, she's always on campus, always talking about, okay, how is Wagner helping the students? What are we doing for the students? And we're very fortunate to have Aletta and the members of the Alumni Board here with us today to be part of a very special celebration, a celebration to recognize the accomplishments of Renée Marino, class of 2004. And you'll hear a little bit more about the awards that she'll be getting a little bit later, but I wanted to give President Grassi the opportunity to say a few words to all of you here today. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back, Renee.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Renee's parents, where they
Here
stand
we go.
over here. And thank you all for being here. So this is special because if you know, well, you know Wagner. Wagner has a certain personality. When I was at other institutions, the personality may have been preppy school, may have been artsy school, may have been political school, may have been any. Wagner's personality is high achievers, friendly personality, good sense of humor, and like good food. So they may not get food in here, but they know that. That's a little inside joke. So I knew Renee when she was a freshman, and she graduated in 2004. And like a lot of you who were in theater or in the arts, one form or another, that personality I just described, and you could not say then, this is going to be somebody who's going to be a star. This is somebody who's very talented, very dedicated, but she just is very persistent. We were just talking about so many others. We just ticked off a whole bunch of names of folks who've been on Broadway or in and around major aspects of the arts that we just knew, just like that in the last bunch of years, who have been just need to be recognized, have been recognized. Renee just hit a different level now. And this is, I'm so proud of her. And she's still Renee. She's the same Renee that I knew when she came here in 2000 in sense of her warmth, her engagement, her intelligence, and her dedication to her craft. Just a fantastic person. And so we have this kind of heritage of the arts at Wagner. We have a heritage in science, we have a heritage in our professional schools in nursing and business and education, certainly in the liberal arts broadly, but in the performing arts in particular, we have this wonderful legacy of which Renee now is ascended to the top of. But we have great folks around that. And now, as some of you know, we're about to announce that we're adding a new major in filmmaking. So we will have a filmmaking major at Wagner starting next year. And we have with us Steve Greenwald, who's heading up that program. Stephen, who has his own distinguished career, was very famous and is a very famous entertainment attorney and was the head of Dino De Laurentiis' companies. You know the name Dino De Laurentiis, you know the major producer in Hollywood and in Europe. and comes to us with a wealth of experience. So joining sort of the experience that Renee represents here today is this wonderful new venture of adding film. We also have added a master's program in called Media MBA, which is in media management, because this digitation is a new aspect of this whole world that's emerging. So you can see we're still committed to the world of creativity and the arts, but I'm so proud of you. And when you hear her in a few seconds, you'll understand why, because she is exactly that same Wagner personality, skilled, talented, dedicated, hungry for success, but also very mindful of others and very thoughtful about the feelings and needs of other people. So I'm so happy.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Grassi. Now, we're here today because, as I said before, we're here to celebrate Renee's achievements. And usually the Alumni Association hands out its annual Alumni Awards during the reunion weekend in June. So how many of you in this room are seniors? Okay, June 13th through the 15th, reunion weekend. I'm doing a plug here. It's actually probably the largest gathering of alumni back here at Wagner. Basically, we get 300 to 400 alumni back on campus. And during that weekend, we celebrate the service and achievements of the alumni, the service to the college, their contributions in terms of time, talent, and effort. And this year, the Alumni Association Board selected Renee to receive its Alumni Key Award. That Alumni Key Award recognizes alumni of the last decade, so those graduates within the last 10 years. And Renee was selected by the committee to be this year's recipient. However, unfortunately, because of her big movie premiere coming out June 19th, doing another plug for you. June 19th, her movie will be premiering, so she'll be in Hollywood, therefore couldn't be here to accept the award this year. But we're really glad that she could be back today to be a part of this event, because really when her and I were on the phone, we talked about how do we do this, what's gonna work, and the light bulb went off. Come back and talk to the students, share your experiences. And so today we will be presenting the award to Renee, but also wanted to let all of you know, Renee is joining a class of alumni of the last decade who are very well accomplished. Past recipients have included Andrew Bailey, class of 2006. For those of you who are baseball fans, he was a closing pitcher for the Oakland A's. He was Rookie of the Year. He was a two-time Major League All-Star. Kinsey Casey, class of 2006. She graduated here from Wagner, went on and worked for Homeland Security with Janet Napolitano. She was recently promoted in the last year and a half to White House Liaison for Homeland Security, overseeing that connection between all the visitors going to the White House and Homeland Security. So Renee's joining a very select group of alumni who have accomplished amazing things in their career. And one day, all of you who are graduating, hopefully we'll see you back here on campus to be presented with an award to be involved with the students, the next generation of alumni. And so that's kind of a brief introduction to the Alumni Key Award. And I wanted to invite Rusty Curcio to help present the award to Renée Marino.
The name of the movie is?
Jersey Boys. That was for drama.
Thank you, Kenneth. Renée Marino. Renee's success is something everyone at Wagner can take pride in, but we also hope her story can inspire our students and another generation of performing artists. And so we are delighted to partner with the Alumni Office and recognize Renee today with this award. While at Wagner, Renee was not only an excellent performer, but excelled in the classroom. And she has the rare quality of making everyone in the room feel special. Her smile comes into the room first, followed by the most upbeat energy. Renee may remember that while she was in my class, she jotted down some of my various sayings and turned them into a book. Renée Marino's Guide to Diva Dancing, or Quotations from the Diva Rusty Kerchief. This is the book Renee, I want you to know that this book sits on my shelf every day in my office. I look at it probably once a week, and you inspire me every day to go in and be a better teacher off of your success. So thank you. Renee continues to give back to us by her presence here today, coming to be a guest for our seniors and other classes, as well as promoting Wagner in her distinguished bio. We are so proud of not only the performer she is, but also the person she is. On behalf of the entire theater department, it is my pleasure to congratulate you with this award.
Wow. How lucky am I to get an introduction like that and just to be a recipient of this award. I have to let you all know how very honored I am because of the fact that I am just so darn proud to be a Wagner grad, truly. Anytime that I can talk about being a graduate of Wagner College, I do. Whether it is in a playbill for a Broadway show that I've done, you'll see it always says, proud Wagner grad, and you only get 50 words, so I make sure to fit that in. I have to cut other things out, because that needs to be in there. Whether it be an interview that I do, or even if I'm just at the grocery store. I mean, Wagner somehow comes up because I really do take pride in being a part of this institution, and for that I thank all of you, Rusty, Dr. Grassi, everyone, thank you so much. I can remember the very first day I stepped foot on the Wagner campus with my parents to check out the school, and I just got this feeling, this feeling in my gut where I was like, oh, this feels right. This feels like home, and boy was I right, because those 4 years that I was here at Wagner were truly some of the best years of my life. The fact that I got to pair a conservatory-style training, kudos to us. It's a BA program, no, it's still conservatory-style training, paired with a liberal arts curriculum was just the best of both worlds, and I feel so well-rounded to have had that education, and it really has, you know, got me to the point that I've gotten to in my career. So again, I thank you guys. I'm just so honored. My career started the day after I graduated Wagner. I was on a plane to Biloxi, Mississippi to become the lead singer in a casino show called Heat Wave. Oh yeah, I thought that's it, I had made it. I was on billboards on the interstate highway, I was on pictures on slot machines, that's it. What else can you ask for? But I got that job because I started auditioning my last semester of Wagner College because I really felt ready at that point with all the training and, you know, everything that I learned here. I was ready to go out and start auditioning and get ready for the real world, and it was great because I really did get my first job my last semester of college. So I had a very distinct moment while I was in Biloxi, Mississippi, which, by the way, my mother thought the first time I called her that it was Biloxi with a V, and she said, oh God, where is that? And I called her the first day that I received my paycheck. It was the first time I had gotten paid to do something I love, and I stood on my balcony and I said, Mom, guess what? I just got my first paycheck. Do you see why I do this? I just got paid to do my hobby, something I've done for free my whole life. And that really is the basis of why I've chosen this career path, because it is my hobby. It's what I love. And it's not just what I love, but it's who I am. I just recently got asked a question, when was the first moment that you knew that this was what you wanted to do? And I said, you know, it's funny, I didn't really have a distinct moment because it just always felt like it was a part of who I was. And while here at Wagner, my wonderful professors, I can remember saying to us in my theater classes, both acting, dancing, I was told, if you can picture yourself doing anything else, do it. Because inevitably, you'll make more money and it'll be more stable and blah, blah, blah. But if this is your passion and what really rings true to your heart, then you have to do it. And that's why I chose this. Because I said, you know what? I'm not gonna pick anything else to fall back on. I'm just gonna go for it. And to all of you students up and coming, I remember so clearly being in your position, so I'm there for you. And I just wanna tell you that everyone will tell you this is such a hard field and it's unstable and it's tough, and it is. And the reason why it's tough is because it lends itself to being at high highs and then low lows. And you just feel like you're going through these ebbs and flows. And what helps that is remembering why you chose this in the first place. And my career has had me, just like anyone else, standing online for hours waiting to get to a dance call. And then I get in there and they're like, actually, we're looking for girls 5'9" and above. And I'm like, thanks. But what's most important is that you always stay true to yourself. And what that means is only focus on the things that you can control. And that's how I've worked in my career. So for example, when you walk into an audition, it doesn't matter what they're looking for. What matters is how much you've prepared and how ready you are to go in the room and to show them who you really are. Because whether you think it or not, when you walk in that room, they want you to be the one. Because it makes their job easier. Do they want to sit through 150 bad auditions? No. So when you go in there and you show yourself and who you really are, that's all you can ask for. And I'll never forget my mother saying to me, one day I came home from, a day of auditioning in New York City where I had 5 auditions in one day, and I walk in with my big bag and I sit down. She's like, how'd it go? And I'm like, no, I got cut. And she goes, how do you deal with this? How do you do it? Deal with the rejection and the thick skin? And I said, Mom, because all I care about is what I can control. And if I go into that room and I know that I've done my best and I've put my best foot forward, and I still get cut, that's okay. Because there are certain things I can't control. I'm never gonna be 5'9", no matter how high my heels are. I'm never gonna look like the blonde girl next door. So those are things that you don't have to concern yourself with. And I can remember writing my essay when I was applying for colleges. And the first line of my essay stated, a quote from Bernadette Peters where she says, don't try to be like anyone else. You've got to be an original, because if you're like anyone else, then what do they need you for? And it's so true. We all have something so unique about us, and it's about showing what that unique quality is, and not trying, but just being yourself. Because that's beautiful, and that's what they love to see. It's about being yourself, whether you're klutzy, whether you're funny, whether you're silly, it doesn't matter. Just be your most authentic self, and you will be just fine. Because what's different about us is that our tool is our body. If you work in computers, if you're an accountant or whatever it may be, you have your computer to work with, you have your calculator, we just have ourselves. So you really just want to take care of yourself, mentally, emotionally, physically, and just treat yourself well. Rusty was always wonderful at reminding me that you're always going to be a student. No matter how high you get up on the ladder, whether you're a Tony Award-winning actress or an Emmy Award-winning actress, you always want to keep your instrument fresh. Stay in class. You'll hear from, any wonderful actress that you speak with, they're always in class, whether it be acting, voice lessons. It never ends, and you're always training and always continue to train. And I say 2 of the best pieces of advice are train and trust. Trust yourself and trust in your own abilities, and you will go very far. In my career, after I did that initial job, heat wave baby, I came back and I was a substitute teacher at my old high school. Thank you, liberal arts curriculum. And it was the best possible day job I could have asked for. And then I was lucky enough to book the 25th anniversary tour of Cats, where I was a swing. Rusty will remember this well. I covered 9 cats, and this was the most intense show I'd ever done in my whole life. And the challenge about being a swing is you have to be so self-motivated, which I learned at Wagner College, because you're not on stage every night. And it's about being able to build that stamina and be ready to go on stage at a moment's notice. So for me, every time we would be on a bus for 14 hours, we'd get to a city, do a sound check, and then have to do the show. And every single time we got to a new city, I would be on that stage doing my ballet bar, warming up, going over my vocal parts, because I knew that if someone went down, I had to be ready to go. And that was some of the best training I got, was on that tour because after I did that, I felt like I could do anything. And again, that came from having a great foundation. And that's why, again, I'm so proud to have received that training from Wagner. After I did that job, I felt like I was on top of the world. I was like, all right, I got this down. I did 9 cats. I'm ready to go. And I wanted to receive my equity card, so I turned down some jobs. Another thing about this career is you have to take risks. Sometimes it's not easy, believe me, but I had to turn down a lot of work because I wanted to get that equity card. So the first equity job I got was the world premiere of Disney's High School Musical, which then turned into a tour of the show. And I toured with that show for 9 months. I was the understudy for one of the leads, Sharpay Evans, and a great example again of how you have to be okay with sometimes not being the right type. I understudied Sharpay. I went on for her over 20 times. And the first time I went on, we didn't even finish rehearsing for the show, but I was ready to go. I was on it. And people couldn't believe it because they're like, how'd you know? And I was like, well, again, I was self-motivated enough to watch her and make sure I knew where she was going in the second act. And when I had that first show, it went very well because I was prepared. And when it came time for them to pick a new Sharpay, I spoke with the director and I said, listen, I would love to be considered for the role. And he wrote me back a wonderful email and he said, Renee, as wonderful as you are in this role, we love you, you're amazing. Ultimately, we need a taller presence. And I said, you know what, Jeff? Thank you. Thanks for being honest with me because that's okay. Again, something I couldn't control. So I couldn't get upset about it, but I said, you know what? Now it's my time to move on because I want to go back to New York City and I want to try and get my Broadway debut. I go back to New York City. Everyone thought I was crazy. You're leaving this job with this great money and how could you? And I said, it's not about money. It's about my goals and my career. So I never let money steer me. You know, that comes along. So I go back to New York, and a month later, I booked Jersey Boys. And I was like, this is awesome, but I'm still not staying in New York. I was cast as the Universal Swing. I covered 3 companies of the show, and they would call me and be like, Renee, you have to go to Las Vegas today. Fly me to Vegas. Renee, you have to go to Chicago today. Fly me to Chicago. And I had to know exactly what I was doing, so I had my separate set of index cards for each cast. So I would know what I was doing when I went out to that city. Moved on after that to the role of Mary Delgado on the first national tour. And this was so special for me because this was a role where no one could tell me I was not enough this or too much of this. I was like, no, this one's mine. And when you get that role, it's even more special because I have always stayed true to myself up until that point. It's very easy to get distracted and say, oh, but they said I need to be 40 pounds thinner or I need to dye my hair. No, you stay true to who you are. And when you do, it's so much more rewarding. And that's why this role of Mary Delgado, I feel so blessed to where it's taken me now being able to play the role in a film. And I got to play the role for a year. Again, I said, still haven't gotten my Broadway debut. I have to go back to New York City. Everyone thought I was crazy, and I said, that's okay. I'm gonna take the risk. And I went back to New York City, and I had auditioned for West Side Story while I was on tour. And 6 months had gone by, I'm auditioning, and I'm auditioning for some other show. The casting director calls me in his office and says, Renee, do you sing soprano? And I said, yes. He said, because we'd like you to replace someone in West Side Story on Broadway. And I said, quote, I think I just peed my pants. Where did that come from? I had auditioned months and months before, and I was like, are you kidding me? They said, we'd like you to go to the theater tonight to watch the show. I had rehearsal for 3 days. Yes, 3. And after the 3rd day, again, I took it upon myself to go to the theater just to be backstage, again, do a ballet bar. Rusty, you taught me well. And the stage manager comes out and says, Renee, how about an early rehearsal tomorrow, because I think you're going to be on for the matinee. I had never stepped foot on stage before this, except for the audition, and I had my Broadway debut after 3 days of rehearsal. Again, I was able to do it because I had a great foundation, and I knew how to kind of just jump into a situation and go full force and trust. And I shenaned out on that stage for my Broadway debut, and I looked up to the heavens, I said, here we go. And I turned, and I went, and it turned out wonderful. And from there, I did my second Broadway show, which was Wonderland, and that was another incredible experience because that show was open for a month and it was closed within a week. So again, talk about those high highs and low lows. But that's something that's part of the territory, and I said, okay, this is fine. I'll do some other things, and I did some workshops of shows, and then I did a workshop called Becoming Chaplin, which turned into the Broadway show Chaplin, which Dr. Garassi saw, he just told me. And I did Chaplin, and that closed after 6 months, and then again I found myself doing Jersey Boys, and this time on Broadway. And that was extremely special for me because I'm really from New Jersey, and all my family got to come in and see me. And then on one fine special day, Mr. Clint Eastwood was in the audience. And I'll never forget, I was backstage and someone said, Renee, Clint Eastwood's here. And I thought, oh, that's awesome. I don't know why I wasn't nervous. And then I come out on stage, and in the show Jersey Boys, the girls sing My Boyfriend's Back. And I come out, and then I look, and I'm like, that's Clint Eastwood. He was literally probably where the last row is, and I was like, well, I guess this is for him. And I continue on with the show, and I had heard that they were auditioning for the film. So I told my agent I would love to be seen, you know, not thinking anything would come of it, but I just want to know I had a chance. And I went in to audition for the show, and funny enough, I couldn't get an audition for Mary Delgado. I was playing the role on Broadway. Clint Eastwood had seen me do the role. And when I went in to audition, I was auditioning for an angel. And I walked in the room that day, and the casting director and I were speaking, and I had a moment where I was like, you know what? I have nothing to lose. And I turned to him and I said, I have to be honest with you. I was really hoping to come in and read for Mary Delgado. And he looked at me and he said, I was just thinking the same thing. And I was like, great, well, awesome, okay, so I'll sing first, and then he's like, would you like to come back another day? And I was like, no, I'll do it today. So I memorized the scenes, and I came back, and I just felt so grateful because at that moment, I took my career into my own hands. And just remember, no one will work harder for you than yourself. Even if you have an agent, a manager, doesn't matter. You are your own best agent. So remember that. I felt great after that. I was just so happy I auditioned. And then 2 weeks later, I got a phone call. I was at home in my parents' home in Linden, New Jersey, where I grew up. And we were getting ready to leave for my older brother's wedding. And my agent left me a message, and she, her voice kind of sounded down. And I was like, my heart kind of sank. I was like, okay. So I called her back. And she gets on speaker, and next thing I knew, she screamed, you're Mary Delgado in the movie. And I was like, ah! I scream, I cry, I run out. My mom's like, what happened? I was like, I'm gonna be in a movie. And my 92-year-old grandmother is in her wheelchair, and she's crying. She's like, I prayed for you for this for years. My father's crying. He's like, Renee, calm down, you're gonna pass out. I'm like, I don't care. So all of a sudden, it was so surreal because, I mean, this huge dream had come true. And really, I worked so hard for this my whole life, and for it to just happen like this was such a reality check of when you persevere, dreams do come true. So it doesn't matter how tall you are, what your weight is, what your hair color is, You stay true to yourself, and that is all that matters. And that's beautiful. So just remember that. And here I am. I filmed the movie. It was the most magical experience of my life. I had never filmed before. I've taken some film classes, but again, my foundation is theater. And again, the first day I was getting transported to set, I had the same moment that I had when I had my Broadway debut. And I was in my dress, my first dress that you'll see me in the film, and I looked up to the heavens again and I said, here we go. It felt like jumping off of a cliff. And that is where trust comes in. And I had to tell myself, Renee, Clint Eastwood hired you for this job for a reason, so just trust. It's all gonna work out. And I got to set that first day, and it was just the most beautiful experience. Clint Eastwood was the most genuine, beautiful human being I'd ever met. And during the filming process, he allowed us to improv. I mean, there was one point where we improv scenes for 15 minutes. And again, I was able to do that because of my foundation. So for that, I just say thank you. I want to thank my incredible parents who have always been so supportive, and they've always guided me and never steered me wrong. And I love you so much. I'm able to be where I am because of you, so thank you. And to my incredible professors, Rusty and Dr. Garassi and Felicia Ruff and just everyone. There she is on cue. I didn't even plan that. Just thank you so much. You guys, truly, I consider you family. And like they say in Jersey Boys, family is everything. And family is everything to me. So thank you so much. I'm so, so honored to be a recipient of this work.
So Renee has agreed to take questions from all of you. So hit her with your best shot.
As if I didn't talk enough. Please ask. Yes.
Just talk about when you were on West Side Story, who you met there on stage who was performing with you.
Oh, Haley Carlucci. For those of you, she's also a Wagner grad, I believe. When did she graduate? I don't know. She's younger than me. But yes, so she and I were both in West Side Story together, which was so special because I was talking to Dr. Garassi about the fact that Wagner College absolutely competes with all of these conservatory schools, you know, Michigan State and NYU, which are all incredible schools, but we are up there with them, and it's so awesome to see our alumni and graduates of the school being out there working and doing wonderful things, so be proud of where you're graduating from. Yeah. Anyone else? Come on, you have to have some questions, don't be shy. Yes?
What was it like working with Clint Eastwood?
Oh my God. Well, so I got to set the first day, and Clint Eastwood was just, I mean, he's like you and I. There's no ego. I had to keep reminding myself that I was speaking with a legend because he's just that down to earth and that sweet, and he allowed us to do, I mean, basically whatever we felt was right as the character. Felicia, you may not have been here when I just said this, but he gives so much freedom to his actors. There were many times where I'd say, hey, Clint, can I try this? He's like, go ahead. And I'd say, you know, he would leave the camera rolling most times, and we would finish with a scripted scene, and then we'd go on for 10 minutes after that just improvising. And I'll never forget, we did one scene with the whole family where my character's drunk, and it's Christmas time and our girls are opening up presents for Christmas, and we improv'd for like 15 minutes after the scripted scene was done, and when they finished, he was like, that was awesome, I can't wait to edit that. So it's amazing because it, as an actor, it just gave such freedom, you know, and we weren't afraid to try anything. And another fun fact, Clint Eastwood follows the path of past directors that he had while he was filming Westerns, and he doesn't do the classic rolling or cut because back in the day during Westerns that would rile up the horses. So, yeah, so funny enough, he'll mosey on up to you and be like, whenever you're ready. Thanks, Clint. Okay. So it was such a cool experience because it was very laid back. So you didn't feel like, oh my God, here we go, it's time to film, you know? And he also, he does the opposite of micromanaging. He kind of is like, do whatever you may. And it's just cool as an actor. And for me, this being my first film, again, it was just such a lesson. I had no choice. I had to just trust. And I had to, you know, talk to myself and be like, Renee, you can do this. Like, he hired you for a reason. It doesn't matter that you haven't done any other films or TV shows or anything else. So it was fine because I would walk into the set sometimes. And again, I'm used to theater, as we all are. I'm used to Jersey Boys specifically, and I have a specific line where I pick up my wine and a specific line where I put out my cigarettes. So, you know, it was all about changing that muscle memory. And I did that with ease. Even if I was a little nervous, I was like, it's okay, I can do this. And it was just really great because he just lets you be free. So that was really cool. And one cool moment, you'll see in the film, Frankie and I have a breakup scene. And I'm walking up the stairs and Frankie's following me, and we did the scene once, and then when we finished, he said to me, all right, now I want you to really give it to him. And I said, okay. So now, you know, we're walking, and I'm screaming at him like, oh, you show up for a couple of days, and you think, and then I forgot my line, and I was like, ah, and then I just kept going with the lines. And then we were finished, and he goes, now that was it. And I said, Clint, I forgot my line. And he goes, let me tell you something. When I was working with Meryl, and I said, you mean Meryl Streep? Oh, tell me more. He said, I used to keep all of her mistakes because they're the best. They're raw. And I was like, well, okay. Since Meryl did it, and you said it's correct, then I'll keep it. So, I mean, that's what makes him so great, I believe. And as an artist, as a director, he's just about it being real, whether it's pretty, whether it's ugly, as long as it's real, that's what he likes. And, you know, so many times on set, you know, you'd think like, he does like 1 or 2 takes, that's it. You know, and sometimes you're like, oh, I wish I could have did that again. But that's when you have to trust him as a director to be like, I think he knows what he's doing. It's Clint Eastwood. Like, he'll tell me if it doesn't look good. So, yeah, it was pretty amazing. Anyone else? Yes?
So what are your plans now? Do you plan on coming back to New York or staying out in LA?
Good question. Well, I currently am in California because I decided after finishing the film that wrapped in October, I said, you know, this is my perfect opportunity to go out to California for pilot season, which if you guys know what pilot season is, when they audition for all the new TV shows. I thought to myself, I've never been out there to audition. This is the perfect time because I have this credit under my belt now, and I can get my feet wet to see what it's like to audition out in LA because I've never done it before. And it was great. I've been out there for 4 months, and I had, you know, tons, over 20 auditions for pilots. And again, back to my foundation. As soon as I got out there, I was like, okay, gotta find acting class, gotta find an acting coach. And from the door, I just hit the ground running, and, you know, I kind of got all of my ducks in a row, and it was great because I established all these relationships with different casting directors. And the goal is now, hopefully, they'll see me in the movie and hopefully like my performance. And then, you know, call me in for future auditions. So the plan is to get married in August in New Jersey. And once, you know, we get married, we'll probably go out to LA, you know, for a while and just kind of see what happens. Hopefully, you know, good things will come of that. But, you know, I will always come back to Broadway. I'll always come back to New York. That's my foundation. But, you know, you kind of gotta hit when the iron's hot, you know? And since I just did this film, I think it's important to, you know, try it out. I've always wanted to try TV film, and opportunities like this don't come every day, where I did a major motion picture like this, so I'm gonna take advantage of it. And, just always remain thankful, and I'm full of gratitude, and that will always be. So, yeah. Yes?
Do you have a favorite role or moment on the main stage at the theater?
Yes. When I played my senior year, I played Lucy Harris in Jekyll and Hyde. That was just my favorite because Dr. Felicia Ruff will attest, I did my thesis on that as well. Remember? Watch, she bust out a copy of it too. No, just kidding. That was just, it was just so special. It's just such an amazing role, and I feel like I remember after the show was done, feeling like, God, I wish we had like 6 more months of that show, because I feel like I was just like touching upon the tip of the character. So that's when I know it's a great role, because I was like, oh man, I just got started. It was awesome, yeah. Anyone else? Come on, guys. Yes.
What was the toughest moment that you've experienced in your career so far, and how did you get over that?
Oof. Well, as I said before, there have been many moments, Mom and Dad can attest, where, I'd come home and be like, oh, man, I'll never forget this. Quick story. I went to this audition, and I don't know, is backstage still around the audition? So I checked backstage, and there was a little breakdown for Jubilee in Las Vegas. They were seeking dancers, but the dancers, of course, were like 5, 10 and above. I said, well, I'm not going to that. And then they said also seeking singers. So I said, great, I'll go into the city, early bird. I get there like 2 hours before. I'm waiting. Finally, it's time for the singers to go. And there were like 2 girls before me, and I heard someone say, the monitor comes out and she goes, yeah, we're actually only seeking singers 5'8" and above. And I was like, you're kidding me. So the girl before me, she's like, well, I'll just leave my resume. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to sing. I've been here for 3 hours, now I'm singing. So I walk in the room, and they're like very hardcore about Las Vegas, like height standards. So I walk in, and like as soon as I walk in the room, there's like 12 people behind the table. And as soon as I walk in, they're like, Renee, you're not 5'8". I said, and I'm also a dancer, but I knew not to come to the dance call because you posted 5'8" and above, but you didn't post about the singer, so I think you should let me sing. And they're like, okay. So I sang, and I was full of rage at this point, so I just gave it to them, and they're like, wow, that was great, and I was like, thanks. So, moments like that are tough because, we go through so much, like blood, sweat, and tears. We're so vulnerable. We go into that room and it's like, we're preparing and we're warming up our voice. We look crazy on the subway because we're like, ooh, warming up. And, we leave our houses at 7 a.m. And then you get there and they're like, oh, actually you can't audition. And you're like, you can't just listen to me sing for 2.3 seconds to make me feel better. So the moments like that are definitely tough. And I would also say it was a tough moment when I got the call for Wonderland, which was closing, because it was a Tuesday, and I was taking a nap before the show, and I got the call from our producer that the show was closing, and it was not only closing, but it was closing on Sunday. So I'm like, what? What do you mean? So here you go from like getting a Broadway salary to getting nothing. And I was like, okay, all right. And definitely a tough moment, but you just kind of like, you have to know like, okay, this is what I signed up for. It's fine. I'll be back at, back auditioning on Monday morning, but that's okay. Because the crazy part about this whole business is someone wins a Tony Award, and the next week, they're in the same audition that you are. And that's just how it is. And that's definitely the challenge of it because, in most other careers, once you get to a certain point, you have this degree or that degree, you can only move up from there. But with us, it can always go back to square one. And that's why it takes a lot of self-confidence and a thick skin to be able to hear lots and lots of no. So more no's than yes. So as long as you realize that and you can accept that, you will be just fine. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm just going to ask, because we take primarily theater classes here, but how is the difference for film? Because you've never done film before, and
Yeah.
it's like being thrown right into it. We had like one film class here at like our senior like showcase class, and like they talked about how it's literally you just go. It's not even like preparing, like you have time and
Yeah.
to do. Like, can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, of course. That's a great question. Yes, because like I said, I hadn't had a lot of film classes at all. And that was definitely one of the thoughts in my head, like, oh God, like, oh, I don't want to be too big. You know, sometimes you hear like, oh, stage actors are so big, because let's face it, we're in front of a live audience. You have to be able to project, you have to be able to use your voice so it hits the last row. But again, and I just keep reiterating this because it's something that holds true not just in our career, but in life. It's just about trusting. You're obviously talented actors, all of you, because you wouldn't be here. And as you know, so much of acting is following your instincts, right? And I had a conversation with Clint on set one day, and we were talking about actually training. And I said, Clint, how did you train? You know, like, what's your background? He's like, he's a very simple man, which is what makes for such a great actor, because he said, Renee, I never took classes. I just heard you sit there. He goes, you're speaking, I'm listening, I react. And you're like, oh my God, that's so true. Why do we complicate things? I'm like, oh my God, you're right. And in relation to your question, that is the connection. Once you get on film, for me, and I can just speak from my experience, naturally, you just adjust, because the fact is you're not on a stage, so the camera's right here, so instinctually you're not going to be like, what? You know, you're going to be like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? Because that's just the natural reaction. So that's the biggest difference, is just that the person's here as opposed to all the way out there. So your body just naturally adjusts. Yes, obviously classes always help, don't get me wrong. I'm in class myself. But for the most part, that's the biggest difference. And as long as you can just remain truthful and react honestly, you'll be just fine. Clint says so. Anyone else? Come on, you have just some good questions. You're going to think of them later and then feel bad. You're like, oh, why did I ask that? Yes?
What's your biggest tip for auditioning?
Biggest tip for auditioning. Be prepared. As I stated before, you only have control of so many things, and the biggest thing that you have control of is how prepared you are. So be prepared, even if you're going in and just singing 16 bars, make sure you know that 16 bars inside out, and you feel good doing it, and you can do it at the drop of a hat. Just always be prepared. And when you walk in that room, just do me a favor, even if just for me, go in there and be yourself. Don't go in there and have an idea. They're looking for someone who's really classy and conservative, so I'm gonna walk in there like this. No. Be yourself, because they want to know who you are. You know, think about when you meet a person. Isn't it so great when you're like, God, that person's awesome. Like, you know what, he might not be right for the role, but I really like him. Because the truth of this business is you're going to see that casting director again, and they're just going to remember you for you. But if you go in there, even if you have a great audition, you sing well, but you go in there kind of superficial, they're going to be like, that guy doesn't really know who he is. Or that girl doesn't really know who she is. Even if you make a mistake, who cares? You're a human. And that's what I had to remind myself about a lot of times during auditioning. We go in there and we're like, these people behind the table, I mean, they are the end-all, be-all, and end-all, be-all. Like, they hold the answer to my career. No! They're human beings just like you. And sometimes, you may just remind them of someone that they didn't like in high school. I've had that happen. I've gone into rooms where I haven't even auditioned yet, and I said, I didn't get this job. Because I could just tell I reminded them of someone that they didn't like too much. So a lot of times it has nothing to do with you. So just be yourself. If you have to picture your friends being the ones behind the table, do it. Because it's just about being comfortable with who you are. And like I said, there are times that you start a song and, you know, it doesn't go too long, you're like, I'm sorry, can I start that again? It's okay. Because they're human beings just like you. They have insecurities just like you. They sometimes get bored easily. They're just human beings. So they just want to see another human being that hopefully is the one who they want to hire for the job. So that's my best advice, yes.
Now, you'll recall this. Today is callback day. They're posting the callback notices
Ooh.
for Dolly and Merrily today.
Uh-huh.
What would you have for a callback tip?
For a callback tip. Okay, so if you're getting called back and it's the same material that you've done, just do what you did. Don't, I mean, unless you've gotten a suggestion where they say, hey, next time can you give me more of this? If they haven't given you that feedback, go in there and just do what you did. And again, callbacks sometimes are even more challenging because, you know, now you're like, okay, I'm one step closer. Okay, this is it, like I really have to do good this time, like this is it, you know. I know that thought process. It's the same thing. Just go in there and be like, you know what? Kind of like I had to do with filming the movie. You know what? He picked me. You know what? They gave me a callback, so I did something right. Let me just go in and try and do my best again. It's about not putting that extra pressure on yourself, which I do really well, being a perfectionist. It's about not putting that extra pressure on yourself because that just doesn't help anything. And I know it's easier said than done sometimes, but if you could just practice deep breathing, you know, just kind of like, you know, if it's pacing beforehand, something that will just help you get those jitters out, do it. Anyone else? You sure? Well, thank you guys so much.
So thank you, Renee, for coming today and talking to all of us about your experiences, and definitely thank you to your parents for being here to be part of this special day here at Wagner. Just to kind of let you all know, if you want to take some pictures, we have the banner here if you wanted to take a photo. And then in the back patio, we have some refreshments, so please go on out there, Renee and everybody, you know, just go out there, hang out, network, and just have some fun. Thank you all for coming.